Hello, everyone, and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, and really some really good mornings. We got some emails from people from Malaysia, and I looked at the time zone that they would have to be watching the show live, and I'm like, my gosh, that is impressive. Thank you so much for joining us. And Tamar's with us over here. Hi, Tamar. I'm looking at everyone else that's signing in for us all over the other platforms. For everyone that doesn't know, or if they do know, just prefer one platform over another, we simulcast on Facebook. We also simulcast on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube on a variety of channels. But also, more importantly, we're also on our TV channel, which is Hospitality Marketing, the Hospitality Channel, I should say. And that is on Roku, Google Android, also Apple TV, Roku, Google, Apple. What am I missing? I'm missing one of them, Amazon. We're on all of those, plus also on your apps. It's an app. The Hospitality Channel is an app. And you can go and download it on your iOS or Android. So if you always never want to catch or miss catching us talking on Fridays, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, you can go on any of the other platforms and catch up with us. But anyway, needless to say, today's conversation, topically driven, is about crypto. You know, there's times in life where you look at things that happen and you say, wow, I remember when that happened, or that was the pivot point, or that was the time that it went from this to this. You often hear people talk about, man, if I knew what Apple was going to do, I would have bought way more stock than I did back in the 90s. I'm one of those. Great that I have the stock. Certainly didn't buy enough to change my world, but nice to know that I was smart enough to have bought it. That's about all it boils down to. Where I think we're at that kind of a tipping point for crypto. Our topic today is that in this week's news, did crypto just get validated? Cryptocurrency, let me be more specific, cryptocurrency. We're all hearing about it. I mean, it's not that it's not an unknown entity to it. And sorry, I'm drinking coffee while we're talking. The bane of being the only one talking at times is the fact that we have to drink coffee. You can't get chocolate all the time. We've all heard about cryptocurrency. We've heard a variety of cryptocurrencies. A lot of it is a lot of misunderstood or not understood programs. Pretty much we're familiar with the first and the original cryptocurrency that was developed called Bitcoin. And then maybe if you've spent a little bit more time with it, you might know some of the other larger ones like Ethereum and ones like that. There are more, and I will be self-admittedly, I'm not all over the board with all of them either. I try to keep up with what's going on with it for a variety of reasons, which we'll talk a little bit about today. But the concept of cryptocurrency, it gets muddled a lot of times with blockchain technology because it's based on the platform of blockchain. So in the news this week, we've had a couple instances where crypto has now been brought into the mainstream. And because of that, we have to take a serious look at the legitimacy of cryptocurrency engagement, whether we incorporated that into our hospitality businesses, how soon that might be. I'm really kind of waiting for another shoe to drop where a large brand will acknowledge the usage of cryptocurrency. I don't see that happening this week or even next week. I do happen to think that it's going to happen in the coming weeks. I think there will be because it's business driven in the sense that FOMO for business. We don't want to miss an opportunity of revenue by not embracing something we're unfamiliar with. It's the driving force of why new technologies get rolled in. It's not so much of an improvement over what it's replacing, and as much as it's a value proposition for more business. And I think that's where the inspiration of a lot of these news features are coming through right now. And I said there's two articles in particular I wanted to talk about today in relationship to that, but more specifically to talk about hospitality, but to go into the process of this. Blockchain is a technology, and the most simplest definition is a validation process. What this means is that everybody that is connected to the network for this, the blockchain network, which is all these people that have servers that are mining for crypto coin, which is their means of making money and so forth, they validate what is called ledgers. Each computer keeps a bit of information about everything in some capacity and form. That's why there's so many computers that are necessary to run this. And in so doing, if nobody actually runs it, it's not like the federal government runs it for the United States or a country runs it for. This is an anonymized system that gets turned on but not controlled. And literally, its participation in the system is what creates the system. People join it and expand it and validate it because they begin to contribute to the verification process of what blockchain is. Think of it as a bank and how you deal with a bank. We're not even going to talk about currency at this point. We're just going to talk about single point of truth. If I have a bank account that has $1 million in it, and it's only at my local branch. If I go to another bank and that bank isn't talking to my bank and say, hey, I have $1 million. Well, not with us. There's nothing in our account for you. There's no verification that you are a millionaire. I said, well, go talk to my bank. Now, they go talk to my bank and say, yes, he has $1 million with us. Oh, okay. So now that's there. So they have to connect to know that I can share that. Okay. Like, okay, there's my money. If you need to, I want to move some over, then they agree. That's the network of finances that we deal with. If my bank has a computer failure and it's the only source that knows I have $1 million, and in that computer failure, my bank account disappears because it is digital. It's not like a pile of cash sitting in a corner of a safe as it used to be with the gold standard. It's just an acknowledgement in their certified accounts, their validated accounts, that Loren has this money here. If that account gets hacked or destroyed or whatever, and that's the only source of information that says I have that money, I no longer have that money. It disappears. That single source of authority is challenging. Also, if somebody were to hack into my account and steal that money, and I say, wait a minute, somebody did that, and the bank's like, no, it looks like it was you and so forth. Unless another bank says, well, wait a minute, I still show the money. It looks like it was just attacking that one account. Okay, then I lose the money again as well. Blockchain addresses that by saying we all keep track of the same thing. So even if one system gets hacked and says that money isn't there anymore, all the other systems says that doesn't match my ledger. And because it didn't create a legitimate transaction that updated all the ledgers, that was a hack and it doesn't count. And that means I don't lose my money. So this mutual authentication, this blockchain, is what cryptocurrency is based on. If you think to how currency runs historically, it's out of the verification that what it represents, the currency that it represents, is backed by the government that issued it. Currency is based on government. Now, going way back, the currency was built out of the very product that was validated as value. In other words, a gold dollar had a dollar's worth of gold. So that physical, tangible coin represented value. What was quickly realized is that anybody could accumulate this and remold it, shape it, melt it down, or whatever. It still kept its same value. So the currency wasn't being validated by the item itself being created. So then it was determined that there would be representations of value backed up by the person that distributed. Think back into countries and royalties and so forth, that the king's gold, so to speak, okay, there was some value to some of it, especially the higher end ones, to validate that it wasn't just copied or anything like that. But most of the general currency, the coins that were being used, the tender that was being used, the product of the coin itself wasn't the value as what it represented. So in Chinese culture, if this was 10 yen, then that was because the government said that issued it, that certified it, and made it, that only they could make it, the minting process, that was 10 yen. And so everybody accepted that was value, so that if I wanted to buy vegetables or a house or something, I could accumulate all my coins and come in and give them the cash to buy it. And it was represented that cash represented the value that it indicated. 10 yen was 10 yen. Then as different currencies began to collide, those transactions of what this currency represented in value for that currency. And, you look at countries back in the day like Venezuela and so forth, that when they had inflation, it took more of that currency to buy the same product. Something that cost 100 pesos now costs 10,000 pesos, because the value represented by that government changed. 100 pesos didn't represent the value of what 100 pesos were. It really was not as valuable. Inflation hit, the value of that currency depreciated. And so it took more of that currency to buy the same product. The prices kept going. We're witnessing that now in our economy right now with inflation. Inflation is the value of the currency is less. And that comes from the fact of the verification validation of the currency being generated. For the longest time, up until the early part of the 19th century, we were on what was called a gold standard. And that was, we could not create, and this is the US I'm speaking of, we could not create more money than we had gold to back it up. And all the countries were working like that. And that's where you have these depositories where each country had their pile of gold, so to speak. And as currencies were exchanged in the sense of value propositions, amounts of gold to balance out who had how much gold that backed their currency was shifted and moved between these vaults, physically moved between the vaults, so that their value was in their vault to verify their income, their currency. Well, that was a limiting factor because you could never go more than what gold could be mined. So any place that you were mining gold turned into a high proposition, so forth and so on. So it was decided that we would stop backing our currency with gold. It would be banked by the certification verification of our government to say, if we say it's a $100 bill, it's a $100 bill. We back it as being a $100 bill. The authority of the government. Now, this happened after World War II, or from World War II, that the United States was the most stable economy in the world at the time. So their currency was used as the standard for everybody else's currency measurement. The US dollar was the international gold standard of currency value, a dollar. So if you were rubles in Russia, 1 year it could be 10 rubles per dollar, and the next year it could be 50 rubles per dollar. But the dollar was the constant. That was the point of truth for those familiar with that term. Well, in that process, currency is totally based on the faith of the users. I could have a pile of Canadian money, but if that money is not represented as valuable by the Canadian government, I have a pile of paper or a pile of coins that aren't worth what it says is on the face of them. So money is a matter of perception, and this is the basis of what crypto is kind of looking towards. Crypto's value is based on the faith of those that are using it. If to give you a fun example, back to my college days, I had a friend. We all had a friend. We're all friends. I had a friend. I'll call him Bob because I don't want to use his real name just in case. But Bob went over and was not notorious, but always short every month. And so he would borrow money from all of us, and he'd give us an IOU. We used to call them Bob dollars. Again, making up the name. These debt notes that he said, like, hey, can I borrow $10? Give him $10, but I get 10 Bob dollars back in the sense of an IOU. Well, that turned into a currency of exchange. Whenever I was short, I'd go to one of my friends, not Bob, one of my friends, and say, hey, I'll give you 20 Bob dollars for a $10 bill. There was a value to this. It was a depreciated value, but it was a value of exchange. Like, okay, because Bob owed pretty much everybody money. And so this was floating around. There was hundreds of dollars of Bob money that was floating around that was being used as exchange between all of us. The fun part was eventually Bob paid off his debt. So whoever ended up with the most Bob dollars almost doubled, if not tripled, their money in some ways, because we had devalued the currency of Bob dollars because it was just debt dollars. Okay. And so I could have 50 Bob dollars and I would try and give it for a $20 bill, a real $20 bill. But whoever had the $50 of Bob dollars, when Bob paid him off, got $50 for a $20 exchange. So currency is based on perception of value. Crypto is based on the perception of its value. Crypto is not government tied, meaning that if a government is not doing well and can't support its debt, kind of like what you're seeing with Russia with the sanctions, the ruble can't be used outside of the country. Their value is only related to what's inside the country. Its value compared to other currencies is way under what it used to be. And so its inflationary aspect of, well, what used to be able to be purchased for 100 rubles is now, it takes 1,000 rubles to do it. Because the perception of value isn't the same. The confidence in the value of the currency is not the same. It doesn't mean as much against all the things that it's compared against for value. Crypto fights that all the time. We've watched crypto go from astronomically poor low to astronomically high, and ups and downs and ins and outs and everything else. We've seen the value of crypto shift and change dramatically, which is one of the negative aspects of crypto, because if I bought something now for X number of Bitcoins, let's just keep consistent with the easiest known one, 5 minutes from now, 2 minutes from now, that what I just paid for could be worth twice as much. The Bitcoin would have gone twice as much in value. And all of a sudden I paid twice as much for a product that I didn't need to, just because of the timing of when I bought the product. So the usage of the crypto, it gets very volatile. A lot of people just hoard the crypto because it changes in value so much. It's fearful of losing its value. Here's a great example. It was called the $12 million pizza. When Bitcoin was first established, one of the persons that owned almost 50% of all Bitcoin mined at that point, and I know I'm using terms that may not be totally familiar, he went over, and this is the first transaction with Bitcoin per se. He reached out to a friend who was also into Bitcoin, and said, look, I'll give you X number of Bitcoins if you will go over and take your debit card and take out money and buy me a couple of pizzas or pizza. And so translate that to current value of the Bitcoins. What he took out and gave over his Bitcoin to this person to do the transaction with it, the person used real money to buy the pizza and give it to him, is worth $12 million now. So it's called the $12 million pizza, because back then the value of Bitcoin was so fractional compared to what it is now that the amount of Bitcoins that he used would represent $12 million in current value. So because of that, there's been a stopgap with crypto. Now, we've seen a lot of things in the news this past couple of weeks. Miami wants to be the crypto center, wants to be the crypto hub of all crypto things. He made a little Miami crypto bowl to make it show that they're building a new Wall Street, so to speak, for cryptocurrency. There are hundreds of cryptocurrencies out there, all of them vying for different things. Because here's a fun way of looking at this. So we have a rewards program with some of our clients, and you get points. Now, those points are only usable at our hotel or our resort, but they have value with us. Outside of us, they don't. Okay? So it's kind of like our own baby crypto, if you want to just think of it in certain ways, in the sense of perceived value. If I say for 200 of our points, you can get a dinner, you look at it as like, well, I got these points from spending money with you, blah, 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 so forth and so on. So really, it's kind of quote free. I was already doing the stuff I was doing, and you rewarded me for doing that. And I built up these points, and now I can cash these points in and get something for it. That in a microcosm is very similar to what cryptocurrency is like from a base level. It's just a perceived value that can be translated over. That's why you see so many types of cryptocurrencies, because some cryptocurrencies are very specific to what they can be used for. And a lot of it is based upon who's using it and what it's being used for. Everybody has the hope that they find the next Apple or Google, that they back the right horse, and that horse becomes the dominant racer out of all of this. As cryptos come up, they all tweak what they have as valuable, usable, and exchange value. A lot of it comes from, we've watched fun commercials with Tom Brady, being a Bucs fan, where they were joking about him trading and so forth. And what it was about crypto, because he was backing a certain crypto. Authenticating a cryptocurrency with a known person like that validates the value of the cryptocurrency from the perception of its usability. Here's the stopgap. If I walked into any of the stores right now, okay, and said, I'd like to buy that, but I use crypto. No. Doesn't work. They look at recognized currency. It's like me coming in with monopoly money. Hey, millions of people own monopoly money, but it isn't tangibly valuable because it's not used. It's not acknowledged to be used for that value proposition because I can keep reprinting it. Hence, counterfeit. Bitcoins can't be counterfeited because going to that blockchain technology, it's validated. If somebody tries to change something like, it says $100 in this account, but it's really 100 million. People go, that's only one account out of everybody else's that says that. That's wrong. That's been corrupted. That's not true. It's still just $100. Okay, that's the value of blockchain. So you can't create Confederate money from this. That's one value proposition. The other is that it's not tied to a government's performance, meaning as Russia goes up and down in its political, the value of the ruble goes up and down with it. Venezuela had it. There's inflation everywhere and anywhere. We're dealing with inflationary times right now. It's not tied to those in the sense that it doesn't have that volatility due to government instability, which is the only verifying factor of currency. I mean, in all truth, all these things that we've had in these past couple of years of support and SBA loans and everything else that's been going out, PPP loans and so forth, is generated currency. It's that, hey, I'll believe it if you believe it. And every country else is like, I'll believe yours if you believe mine. Everybody's just printing money in a way. And I'm being very simplistic when I say that. There's verification, validation, and so forth. So I'm being very simplistic when I say that. But we're literally producing the currency that we're saying we're going to use. As long as everybody believes the same perception that it's valued at the same way. So when we generated more currency, Germany generated more currency, the Netherlands generated more currency, because everybody said, I'll believe yours if you believe mine, you believe mine, you believe yours. Okay, as long as we all believe it, that way the currency can get used. That's government. Crypto is based on the people that own it, the faith of having it, and the value of its use. And that I keep getting back to that wall of use. It has been in the news for a while. El Salvador was the first country to change their national currency, okay, to Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency in general, but Bitcoin in particular. And they just did a news article on it this week. One of the reasons why we're having this conversation today, where 9 out of the 10 places that the reporter went to in El Salvador did not take Bitcoin. No. Dollars, currencies that are recognized, no Bitcoin. Because the infrastructure is not there yet. Now, they have ATMs you can go to and you put in real currency. That's it. See, it's a bias. I put in US dollars and it gives me Bitcoin, on my wallet, which is another term you'll recognize with crypto. And in my wallet, it says I have $200 worth translated to Bitcoin 1.6, not even 1.6, it's 0.0016 of Bitcoin. And now he went around trying to use that and he couldn't. He found one place that could use it, but it took it out of his wallet, but it didn't give it to the vendor for a while. First off, when he bought the crypto Bitcoin, it took 2 hours before it went into his wallet. Not exactly super convenient. Then when he went to use it, it said that it was taken out of his wallet, but it hadn't made it to the vendor yet. And then the third time it actually worked in the timing cycle necessary that we're so familiar with. Hey, I want to buy this meal. Bing! Here's my transfer of the money from my wallet to your wallet. And it happened when it was supposed to happen. So there's a lot of, yeah, that's nice, but it's not there yet, thoughts about crypto. So that's what's happening in El Salvador. We hear about scams going on now that people want to be paid in crypto. Why do they want that if it's not usable? Well, it's still valued at currency and exchange rates. It's being acknowledged that if you have a certain amount of Bitcoin or Ethereum or something, that it's equivalent to these many dollars. Using it's a little challenging, and it's not that you can't. There are means to convert cryptocurrencies into the currency of your choice. And there's also ways to purchase cryptocurrency, which is literally doing the reverse, taking currency and translating it into crypto. The outlets of usability of it are hard, but for why people use it for nefarious means is because it's untraceable. The wallets are identified within the network, and there's nobody running the network. There's no apex to this. There's no government running to this. And so being able to add it to your wallet anonymizes you because the wallet is an anonymous feature. It is a function of identity that the network knows, but not any one individual knows. Yes, you can see the crypto account that's being transferred, but you don't know who's related, attached. There's no connection to a person for that. And so people want to be paid in crypto because then they can take that currency and translate it into another type of currency if they so choose. Consider the old movies from the 60s and so forth when there was a hostage situation and leave the bag of money in the trash can on the corner of 5th and Vine, and all the police are watching for whoever goes by the trash can and so forth, because somehow the money that was being held for ransom had to get in the hands of the person that was holding the ransom request. And, they put blue bomb bags and stuff, and people robbing banks because they can grab the currency and leave and so forth. Because once you have the currency, other than the serial numbers and so forth, which is another way of tracing theft and all this other stuff, cryptocurrency doesn't have those things. You can't, once it's transferred into a wallet, the identity is gone because that wallet can transfer to a variety of other wallets, and you can't track that wallet's activities because it's private. It's not a part of an individual way of tracking it down. There's no way for a government agency to go in and see the trail of where the money went to. So crypto is used nefariously for that purpose, but it's also from a security perspective, that's what people have as security as well, which means, going back to my example, say a young couple in Nicaragua, and there's a local bank. If they put their money at the local bank and the local bank gets burnt down and the records of their money that was at the bank gets burnt down, they've lost their money. Unfortunately, a lot of banking systems in lots of countries have no secure backup way of data that can't get hacked or abused or whatever have you by nefarious people. So crypto solves that. They can have, quote, a bank account that a hacker, that a thief, a theft, a person, a bad person can't get to. They can't go in and rob the bank. They can't go in and steal the accounts in the bank. They can't hijack your bank, because it's everything's in a wallet that only they can get into. It requires a key. Now, of course, they can steal the key or find the key, and this is what happens for people to steal money from crypto accounts: is they find the key of the wallet and they go in and wipe out the wallet. But that's, the idea of it is that now everybody can have and store money in a way that also means, like, if a family is in the United States and they're wanting to send money back to their family in their country, they can send it via crypto, and it's instantaneous and it's there, and nobody can intercept it, and nobody can charge their fees to handling it, like Western Union and all the rest of the places. There are fees to crypto exchanges. It's called gas. These are coined phrases. I don't know if it'll eventually change, but it's called gas. And that is the cost to initiate the transactions. And this is where the platforms are offering a variety of values. The platforms themselves have different gas prices. Ethereum versus Bitcoin versus a whole host of others. Some offer that certain gas prices don't happen until you hit a certain threshold. Others have expensive gas prices for everything. It depends on the validation and value of the cryptocurrency as to what the gas prices are. But the idea of it is that the crypto itself doesn't cost. Once it's in your wallet, it's in your wallet. The cost comes from moving it from your wallet to another wallet. That's the gas fees. And those are going to potentially expected to go down pretty consistently as higher usage rates go up. It's just the cost of usage. That's why it's so high, because so few people are using the transactions of it. So it costs so much. Plus, opportunistically, it's the way that people are making money off of running cryptocurrencies. So here we've been brought up to a little bit of the rough history of crypto to where it's at. Now, going to my example of hotel points, reward points, and so forth, there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that are very a-specific to what they're being used for. Now, we have different reward programs. Let's look at Marriott, Hilton, IHG, Hyatt, so forth. Their value proposition of their program is that you garner points no matter where you stay within their brand, and you can redeem those points anywhere within their brand. That's where they're valuable. It is not as valuable to take Marriott points and move them over to IHG. There is a means of transferring them, but the value goes way down. The value of it staying in Marriott is much higher than trying to transfer them over to IHG. That happened a lot when Starwood got sucked up into Marriott. There was a lot of companies to be taking advantage of hey, we'll take your Starwood points and convert them to our points, and you get on our reward system. It was a very good, savvy marketing strategy back when that was happening to do that. But all that said, the same, Marriott reward points work best in Marriott reward system. So as a business traveler or any traveler, you garner enough points that reach a certain point that you can redeem them, because there's a point fee structure to redeem them at hotels within the Marriott system. Some hotels are more expensive than others because of high demand and value compared to other ones where it takes fewer points to go and redeem. That currency value is a miniature currency, okay, compared to, because you're saying that these points are worth something, and because they're acknowledged by the redeemer, that means there's value. Just like American Express has American Express points. You can take those points and buy things. And the relationships they have with a lot of companies give you options to redeem them with, which is what creates an issue for independent hotels. Do you join a larger reward system program for the benefit of exposing your product to everybody that's signed up as a user of this rewards program, saying, hey, there's a new hotel that's added to the list, so even though you get points going to the local coffee shop, you can redeem them at a stay at this new hotel? There's one option there for independent hotels. Or that they try to create their own reward system, okay, that because they want to develop a residual lifetime relationship with the guest is helpful for them. So taking the angle off of crypto for a little bit, but referring to perceived value of transactions, let's take both examples. So I have an independent hotel that is joined to a larger rewards program, meaning that people can garner points through a variety of merchants and then choose where they want to redeem those points with those same variety of merchants. So if I go to a coffee shop and a retail store and a few other things that are in part of this system in my market, and I accumulate these points, and then I see that a hotel, my hotel, is in this system and a place of where I'm interested in going, I can add value to my experience going to the hotel by reducing my actual hard currency costs by redeeming these points, this currency of points, against it. So instead of paying $200 a night, I might pay $100 a night because I'm cashing in on points. I might get a lot of free perks because I'm signed up with it, whatever. Keep in mind, none of this is free, okay? To participate in this program as a merchant, you have to pay to be in the program. You also have to cost yourself on the redemption that's coming your way, because these points that are accumulated by me coming to the hotel weren't done because I went to the hotel to generate these points. They were done by going to other merchants that have no balance, no effect on my bottom line from a positive perspective, by having garnered them at the local retail and coffee shop and so forth. So I'm acknowledging the value of these points and reducing my actual currency income because I'm bringing this guest is coming because they're connected to this reward system. There's a cost to me, and that cost is absorbed by me as a merchant. Okay, I don't send a check, a bill out to a place to go over and get the redemption back. There is a redemption value. There is a dollar pool to come in, but it's a fraction of what the actual value is that I gave in return for it. So for every dollar I'm redeeming as points, I might get 10 cents back, because as I give points, I pay 10 cents a point for what I given. So say, for instance, you stay at my hotel and you earn 500 points. That cost me $50. I have to send a check to this membership platform, okay, to say that these points were awarded to this person. That's the pool of money that is being used to pay the person on the other end that had to redeem the points that were earned in my location, okay? So that's how those systems work. The idea from my perspective of the merchant of the hotel is that I'm going to get more business because I'm associated with this rewards program, that there's an added value to staying with me and a value of staying with me because you earn points elsewhere. I'm opening a new audience for people to come to my hotel. And also to solicit people to stay at my hotel for the value of being part of this larger rewards program. It's kind of like using your American Express card. If you use the American Express card at my hotel, I'll double your points, meaning I'll pay for half the points you're already going to get. I have to pay American Express pennies on the dollar to give those points to the person on the promotion I had. That had been a business model with American Express for decades. And it used to be very expensive to be a part of that with them, as a matter of fact, to be the featured business for them and stuff. But that's how American Express points work as well. And American Express, to the people that are using their card, same thing. As you use, you earn. They're taking a percentage of their profit of the credit card usage, okay, fees that they charge merchants to use the card with, and applying it to a redemption system to American Express card users as a reward for their usage of the card. Nothing's free. Everybody's paying from some aspect of this. So that's the join a larger model perspective. And that's a value proposition that Marriott, IHG, and Hilton, everybody else offers. Like, when you're part of the system, you're part of that whole audience. Remember, Marriott bought Starwood not because of their hotels, but because of their rewards program. They flat out said that. The rewards program, the people that were connected to their rewards program, the database of those people was the real strong value proposition of them acquiring Starwood. So let's look at the contrast to this. I want to do my own rewards program. You see this a lot in restaurants. You see a lot of frequency things like, okay, buy 5, get the 6th free kind of stuff. That's a rewards program. That card that has 5 little hole punches in it is worth something because the next one's free. That now has value. It went from a card with holes in it to a $15 lunch because the 6th one's free. And there's a lot of digital conversions of this. There's also a lot of digital conversions for points. Every time you come in, you get points per dollar spent. There's a little local restaurant here that we go to that's a point per dollar. And at 100 points, you can cash it in for $10, which is pretty darn good. So basically, for every $100 I spend, I get $10 spendable. Well, in that world, you have a term called breakage. People have it, but they don't use it. It's kind of like gift cards. There's the term breakage for gift cards. I buy a $100 gift card. 30 to 40% of all gift cards don't get redeemed. So based on the terms and conditions that your state requires you to issue gift cards, that money just turns into the bank and turns into your money that you didn't have to reimburse for somebody's purchase. So there's always breakage to this. The idea is that it drove people in, and they didn't always take advantage of the value proposition that they earned. That breakage component is a part of that. So as an independent business, if I'm going to run my own membership program and I reward them for points, you have to think, first off, is the frequency of the guests I'm inspiring to do this legitimate? If it's a business traveler that's coming through the town once, it probably doesn't behoove them to participate in the process, because in all honesty, they're probably not going to come back through again to get the value proposition that they've earned, because they don't have a reason to come back to town quite yet. That's where the brand relationship exists, because even though they're not coming back to your Marriott, they're probably going to stay at another Marriott and earn more points and be able to redeem points later as well. So going to your own, you have to decide, do I have the frequency of guest return, the lifetime relationship with a guest that says, by offering them a value proposition and rewarding them for their frequency and their spend with me, that I'm generating incremental business because of this. I'll give you a case example. We did this with a client. We went over and had a client that was a resort-driven client, and we looked into the guest folios to see frequency. This is pre-COVID, by the way, because COVID had changed a lot of the frequency of a lot of people pre-COVID. We looked into what is our top list of people on basically two categories: first, third, and final. The two categories: frequency of their stay, duration of their stay, and the third was about their amount of money that they spent with us. Those are the three core criteria that we're looking at our guest folio. And we quickly had a list, and there was a handful of people that qualified at all three because they were there a lot, they stayed long when they were with us, and they spent a lot of money because of it, which is kind of an inherent causation of the second. So we had a short list of those people that were like, these are our Willy Wonka Gold Ticket Home members. These people come a lot, stay a lot, spend a lot. Ooh, they're the ones we want to recognize and reinforce with them how much we appreciate with them. So that's one list. And then there was lists of all the other three. People that stayed a lot, people that spent a lot, people that came a lot. All of them we approached with an acknowledgement saying, you guys are our cherished guests, in the sense that you have decided that we are a place of your preference and that you come and stay with us a lot, or whatever. And because of that, you're in our new premium elite reward program. What this means is you will always be guaranteed a room. You will always be guaranteed to be upgraded. You will always have first choice on this. You will always be able to get a seat at the restaurant. You always have this discount at the restaurant, on and on. And you might think like, well, wait a minute, you're putting money back on the table. You're rewarding them and giving them benefits that they were already exercising. Yes, but it also amplified their spend, amplified their duration of stay, and amplified the frequency of their return, which was the real motivation for doing that. The other group that we did was we wanted to convert everybody that was coming in via OTAs into our program. We wanted to translate their identity that was anonymous through the OTA to a concrete email that we could create correspondence and develop that long-term relationship with them. So what we did was we said, congratulations, welcome. We would like to make you part of our reward program. We're going to make you the second highest level to our reward program for the first year on us. We want you to experience the hotel as a VIP guest. And we gave them the second highest level of reward program, gratis for the first year. What we did was, by doing that, if they liked it, first off, we increased their frequency, increased their spend, because we're giving them incentives to do both, as we mentioned. But also, at the end of the year, they didn't want to lose it, because that meant that they lost the benefits they've come to appreciate. So they did try to stay the minimum amount of time to qualify. They did spend the minimum amount of money to qualify. They did spend as many times extra that they needed to come to us to qualify, because they wanted to maintain that relationship with us. So many other reward programs are inverse. They're the ones that say, well, once you've gotten to this level, we'll give you the free bottle of water. Carrot on stick kind of thing. Why am I bringing this all up about crypto? Because crypto works very asimilar to the value proposition of its intended creation. You have crypto that is specific to business and industry types. This crypto is kind of like a rewards program in a way. It's a currency that's acknowledged at a value that is agreed to be functionally transferable between entities that isn't a cash relationship. It has value from a cash perspective, so there's relevancy of familiar referencing, but its value is conditional upon its usage in the system that it was designed for, and it can go up in value based on its frequency of usage, its volume of usage, and its quantity of value that's being perceived by those that are using it. Very similar to the points and reward program that we just talked about. It's perceived value. The value is based on the perception of its redemption or currency exchange value, meaning If I told you I can give you 1,000,000 points at this hotel's reward program, you're like, that sounds like a lot. When you realize 1,000,000 points is what you have to take to go over and buy a bottle of water, it doesn't sound as well. It's a perceived value. So crypto is about perceived value. That perceived value is based on its users and what it can be used for. We're back to the used for part. That brings me to why I thought this week was an interesting week of potential validation for crypto. I'll bring up the first one to this because it's the least impactful, but it has tangible value. And that is, it was announced by the Dallas Cowboys that they sealed a partnership with cryptocurrency platform blockchain.com. What they did, and I'll read you the article in bits and pieces here. While fans will not be allowed to use cryptocurrency at the AT&T Stadium, they will have the opportunity to earn exclusive fan experiences that include trips to away games and events hosted by players. At the recent owners meeting in Palm Beach, Florida, the league said it would also would allow teams to begin sponsorship deals with crypto companies. This opens a door. Remember, I was talking about the legitimizing of cryptocurrency. You saw during the Super Bowl the bouncing QR code, and people bashed it and they praised it all in the same voice. It was about a crypto place, and you crash the website and so forth. And there's lots of marketing aspects of the positives of what they did and the negatives of what they did. People say, well, they should have told you what the QR code was for. If you did, you probably wouldn't have done it. The fact that you didn't know what it was is what inspired you to go check it. 28 million people checked what the dang QR code was. It validated that QR codes have reestablished themselves in the market. It validated the fact that people will innately be curious to do such a thing, and they're aware of what it takes to go up to the TV and use their phone and look what QR code is and look where it goes to and so forth. Even if they weren't interested when they saw what it was, it validated all that. Plus, it showed them a whole mess of data from geographic perspective as to who did that, where they did that, how many people did they actually get through to that, and what was the follow-up result of that. So yes, it was a lot of money spent to do that, but it proved a lot of points to it. Could it have been done better? Of course, but it was the first to do it. So in all sense, you can criticize it after it happened of what could have been maybe a better way of doing it. But at the time, it wasn't even known of what it was going to do when it did it. So you have that. Now that the NFL is saying, hey, guess what? We're acknowledging that crypto companies are legitimate businesses. So instead of not being able to advertise with them and get sponsorships from them, okay, NFL said it's okay now. That authenticates crypto because the NFL isn't going to allow me to promote my business on one of those back panels when people do interviews if it isn't authorized to do so. It can't say Joe's Pizzeria on the back because people are going like, really? The Baltimore Ravens have Joe's Pizza as a sponsor? How bad are they doing? Perception about things is so critical. NFL is probably the epitome of that. So validating that crypto businesses can now be sponsors. They can be on that little panel in the back. Goes, oh, they're by Bitcoin. They're being sponsored by Bitcoin. Ooh, that's something. That makes a difference. So that's one validation. Plus, also, Jerry Jones gets all the PR buzz that he's one of the first. He's the first NFL team, one of the first to adopt the fact that crypto is going to be used. They're going to start using cryptocurrency for perceived value of being able to go to away games, buying them through the ticket system for Dallas Cowboys. He's banking on the fact that they buy it at a certain value. As crypto goes up in value, he benefited from them using the currency type for what they bought, because the perceived value at the time of purchase is fine. The person says, oh, that's the same as if I spent $500 for the tickets. That's cool. But that $500 worth of crypto might end up being $750 by the time it actually, they would redeem it. And they were like, wow, I just spent $750 for it, which begins to create our other problem, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. And that is the ever flux change in value for currency, because we don't mind so much the exchange rate of the US dollars to something else like the British pound. If it goes from $1.85 per pound, British pound sterling, to $1.75, for us, we're using dollars, so good or bad for them. I can tell you, traveling to Europe regularly, we kept a very close eye on the EUs, on the euros. And because there was times when we went to Europe and we got off the plane and our value of money that we bought dropped by 30% because the dollar wasn't strong against the euro. And then there's other times we got off the plane, our money went up 30% because our dollar was strong against the euro. And what I mean by that is when we get there, if I had to buy, let's just make up numbers that are not real. For every dollar I spent, I got €2. For every euro, I had to spend $2. Then when I look at a price of a loaf of bread and it's €2, oh my gosh, that's $4. Compared to if every time I spend $1, I got a euro, then €2 is like, oh, that's only $2. The perceived value is based on the core currency that you're most familiar with. Crypto is dealing with that right now. Crypto is a dollar of crypto might be 0.0021, okay? But then when you bought it versus later on, that 0.0021 now turns into 0.0025. That dollar just turned into, it cost you $3. Oh my gosh, that the flux of the value changes dramatically. So crypto has volatility to its value proposition that changes quite regularly. And so there's an uncertainty of should I use crypto right now? Because man, it's going up. So if I buy something now, it's probably going to, in the sense of conversion value, going to go up by the time I actually use the product. If I buy a car, instead of spending $50,000 for the car, I spend 5 Bitcoin for it, each Bitcoin being $10,000, let's say, then Bitcoin goes up and now it's 75 cents or 0.75 Bitcoin per $10,000. That car now cost me $75,000 between the time I bought it with crypto versus the time I got it delivered. The price of the car went up because of the money that I lost using the Bitcoin that I used. That perceived fluctuation in value is what's creating a hoarding of crypto. It's not being used as much as it's hopefully being done. And because of that, it's just amassing in people's accounts, and people see them and say, oh my, it's like stocks. Ooh, my stock's really up. Until you cash it, it's not real money. So even though you have $100,000 in stocks, that's the value of the stock you own. Unless you cash it in and get that $100,000, the next day when the stock market falls and that stock that was worth $100,000 the day before is only worth $50,000 now, you lost $50,000 from that. And so because of that volatility, the usage rate is not as heavy. That and the ability to actually use it isn't that high. Now that comes into our second article of discussion, and that is Mastercard launches the world's first crypto bank card called Nixio. What this is doing is there's logistics issues. Now this is tied to Bitcoin. They're going with Bitcoin first. What they're doing is solving a huge hurdle in the ability to use Bitcoin. Bitcoin requires its own method of exchange from wallet to wallet. And the platforms that they're built on and platforms that provide service to cryptocurrencies control that. It's in its functional form, the efficiency, the logistics of using Bitcoin is very straightforward. I open up my Bitcoin account of whoever I'm using as my wallet engagement, where the wallet is the wallet. How you engage it is based on the platform that you're using. So say, for instance, I'm using Bitcoin and I have a vendor that uses Bitcoin for the transactions, and they charge gas. Remember the fee to this on it. What I do is I go to the vendor that I'm buying something from, and I pull up my wallet, and I pull up the amount that I'm wanting to spend. I punch that in, and then pops up a QR code, and they just scan with their Bitcoin wallet software my QR code that's been created that initiates the transaction, verifies it, identifies the amount, and moves it from my wallet to their wallet, and then charges me the fee or him the fee, depending on how it works, of gas to do that. That's how it works, which is great. Now he has to, in his wallet, be able to translate what he has as Bitcoin in his wallet to paying his electric bill and food bills and everything else. That's where things begin to break down, because not every system takes Bitcoin. You can't go to your local power company and say, hey, I want to play Bitcoin today. They'll be like, yeah, no, you're going to have to give us some dollars. And translating it from a cryptocurrency to another currency it costs you money, costs more gas money. So one is I transferred my money to him. I paid the gas to put it in his wallet because I'm buying something. In exchange for him to go over and translate it to a currency, he has to pay gas to go over and do that as well. Right now, gas fees are pretty high, especially when compared to small transactions, which is what most currency gets used for. I'm not always buying a car. If the gas fee was the same for buying a car as it was buying a loaf of bread, likelihood is I'd probably only use that currency because of buying a car, because it was worth the gas money. And I know it sounds like a weird analogy saying I'm using cars, but gas is the fees associated with crypto to do that transaction, because the fee's the fee. It's not scaled all the time to the volume of what you're transferring, which is a problem with Bitcoin and all cryptocurrency right now that has to happen to that level. But what's happened now with this new announcement from Mastercard with Nixio is it's saying, here's a card that's going to act like a Mastercard. Okay, so that means all the systems in the world that handle Mastercard, which is pretty much mainstay. Okay, I can use this card and it'll be acknowledged through the Mastercard system, but the currency that's being used in this transaction is cryptocurrency based, not dollar based. That's a huge thing, because that means I can go over and pay my electric bill with my credit card, and it gets taken out, the currency value gets taken out of my Bitcoin account, my Bitcoin wallet. So I'm now using Bitcoin and the value of what Bitcoin is to pay my bill, where they wouldn't have necessarily taken Bitcoin, but because of this transaction capability is available. That mainstay stepping into mainstream to do this is a huge acknowledgement of the potential of crypto being used the way it was built. For a company like Mastercard, American Express will probably follow suit. Visa will probably follow suit, where they're saying, we will allow you to base the value currency that this card uses from your crypto wallet and not from your bank account. That's a huge shift. And because of that, crypto will potentially get to be used more and more. One, that creates value proposition for crypto that people that own it. Two, that adds the value proposition of having crypto for people that own it. Three, that unchains the coffers of people that have been hoarding crypto because they haven't really had a means to use and spend it. It's like the stock market. Hey, my crypto is worth this many millions of dollars, but I really have any place to cash it in. If I cash it in, then yes, I get the money out of it, which a lot of people do, but you have to have somebody that's willing to spend it to buy the crypto you're selling. You know, those stocks that you're going to sell, somebody has to be willing to buy them. You think back to the times, we weren't all there, but when the stock market crashed, people couldn't sell the stocks at any price because nobody wanted to buy the stock, because it was probably going to go down even less in price. And there's no reason to buy the company that the stocks were issued for, because the company was going out of business. Their value disappeared. And the product they made, even if it was still valuable, wasn't cost effective to produce because the prices to do it changed so much overnight with the stock market crashing. We face that volatility in our current currencies as well. Now, from a hospitality perspective, the fact that somebody can come in now with this MasterCard and use their cryptocurrency means that they have been accumulating cryptocurrency and they see that as a value proposition. It might open up their minds to saying, I want to cash in on this. This is great. I can use my cryptocurrency now to go get a hotel room. Now, there are still hurdles to this. The cost and fees are still there. The gas money, okay, the fees of transaction are there. I'm sure MasterCard is not doing this for free as well. They realize the value proposition of them authenticating and validating the usage of crypto by doing this. So the higher fees for it. So the thresholds of usability still are there. Somebody's like, I'm not going to buy a beer with this because between it and the fees for the beer costs me 3 times as much. I'll just use regular cash, US dollars, to do that. So there is still hurdles for this, and that is based on usability. So all this time we talk about the wall of usability for crypto, that's crumbling down. The usage of crypto as a legitimate acknowledgement of value, perceived value of it, is now going into the realm of usability. That usability will promote stability in the value of the cryptocurrency, the usability of the cryptocurrency, and its adoption of more people that are not truly familiar with the whole cryptocurrency system. They're not familiar with the U.S. government's treasury system and how is a dollar worth a dollar and how is it recognized as a dollar and everything else. Is not that familiar for a lot of people either, but they accept the value proposition of what the currency represents. And so because of that, a dollar's worth a dollar. Now, in inflationary times as they are now, a dollar really isn't worth a dollar. Now, how do we say that? Because it still is a dollar when I hand it across the counter. It's what its perceived buying power is. If a dollar, and this is where you always see things from a inflation adjustment period, you look back and say, oh, wow, houses in Cape Coral, Florida, where I live, brand new in the late 50s, early 60s, sold for $2,500. Oh my gosh, can you imagine that? $2,500. Because we see it in the perceived value of what $2,500 means now. $2,500 back in 1960 was the same as $250,000 is now, let's say. Like, wow, that was a pretty big financial decision to make. Because everything else back then, a loaf of bread was 10 cents, gas was 10 cents, whatever. You look at it and say, oh my gosh, that's me. Inflation is the difference between the dollar's perceived value then and the dollar's perceived value now. So a house that's worth $500,000 now, you're like, oh man, that's so expensive. Yeah. And so too would a house back in 1960 been at $50,000. You'd be like, oh my God, that's rich man's house. The perceived value has changed. The whole idea of looking back and saying, oh, penny arcades, a penny you did this, and nickel sodas and all this stuff, because it was worth more then perceived value than it was worth now perceived value. Inflation creates that issue. That's what we're dealing with when it comes to dollars and currency. Perceived value and its usability. That is what the currency for cryptocurrency is going to be going through, perceived value and currency. So for those reasons, as a hospitality industry, you have to look at how is this going to affect our ability to relate to our guests and give them value? Will giving them crypto rewards? Because remember, I gave you that analogy. You wonder why I was doing it between joining a large reward system versus your own reward system. The pros and cons of this. With crypto, you're kind of joining the large reward system. It says, if we start dealing with this, everybody that's in this umbrella of usership for this large membership group is going to see us as a value proposition and hence want to do business with us. If by using crypto or rewarding in crypto or acknowledging crypto adds you into the club of people that are in that space, they're now going to look at you and say, ooh, I can go to that resort and I can use my cryptocurrency. Considering that I started with $100 and made it $100,000 in crypto money, that to me is money. It's like stock market. I can cash that in and use it, and I get to use it in a real way by going to this resort because they accept crypto. I don't have to go through the cost of transaction conversion to another currency and then using that currency and bleed money along the way. I instead can go directly using the value that's perceived in crypto at their business, and they're going to accept it and acknowledge it. The first step we just saw happen this week, which was Mastercard bringing out their Nixio card and saying that crypto can be based on this and use cryptocurrency to use this card. That's a huge step. Another one of the news this week was the fact that Dallas Cowboys said that we are acknowledging our relationship with cryptocurrency. You're going to be able to use cryptocurrency with us for away games and other things with player functions and so forth. We're acknowledging that you can use your currency of crypto as a tangible value for a real product, without having to go through exchanges and conversions and all the costs associated with it. So again, I kind of feel this week was, did we just watch crypto get validated? So with that is our show for today. Cryptocurrency, did it get validated? That was our topic. Brought you around the woods, gave you lots of examples of the value propositions. Certainly did not explain the universe when it comes to how crypto worked, or we didn't even talk about NFTs and blockchain, but we did refer to how the base system works in the perception of value and how currency has an effect, and how it's going to look at, from your business and hospitality, how you're going to interact with this new form of communication based on the currency that you are perceiving. So with that, I thank you for the privilege of time. Thank you, everyone. Actually, I never get to see all the comments because I'm always talking so much, but thank you for everyone that joined us on all the platforms. As always, you can see us on the TV channel, Hospitality Channel, on Roku, Amazon, Google, and Apple, or on any of the platforms, even on Twitch, which strangely enough, I always get comments on Twitch. For those I'm familiar with, we've talked about in the live show. We're going to talk about it again real soon. That in Discord, two other platforms that we should always keep in mind with our strategies and new and upcoming technologies. We'll deal with that another time. Don't forget, we do our podcast each week. I'll do a quick recap of our discussion on it as well, plus also some tools and techniques on our podcast we do each week, which is Hospitality Marketing Podcast. We're on 39 platforms, even Amazon's Alexa, Siri, Apple Siri, and Google Assistant. All you have to do is ask them to play the Hospitality Marketing Podcast, and we'll play the latest episode. And we'll do that one today. So my name is Loren Gray. Thank you for the privilege of your time. We look forward to next week's show, number 350, at 11:30 a.m. Eastern U.S. time. And until then, have a great and awesome week. Bye, all.